people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
De la noche, Stephanie Piñeiro.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would appear that young Yadira Bustillos from right here in the US of A will be in action this weekend at the Westgate Hotel and Casino in Vegas opposite the ring's seasoned journeywoman Tamara Demarco in what is a minimum weight contest scheduled for 8 rounds. You will recall that this is the same Yadira Bustillos that challenged Sarah Borman in Germany, and she came up short. She didn't win that fight. It's her lone professional loss, but she looked impressive, albeit green. A little bit more experience, more fights, and more rounds in the bank. Yadira might have gotten a different outcome. So now she's facing Tamara Demarco of Argentina, 36 years old, who's been in there with a lot of fighters, very good ones. Tamara is 36, whereas Yadira is 24, sporting a professional record of 10 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 1 recorded knockout, having never been knocked out in 11 professional bouts. To Tamara Demarco, who's got a lot more experience, sporting a professional record of 12 wins with 7 losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 19 professional bouts. Last in action in November of last year, she fought 2 times last year. Once in May, then again in November. In May, she challenged Sarah Borman, who's a common opponent between Tamara and Yadira. Sarah beat them both. Tamara loses the fight to Sarah Borman in May, rebounds off the loss in November with Daniela Molina. So she's coming off a win, and she has no ring rust that she needs to shake off. Yadira, less active in the previous year. She only fought once, and that was back in July opposite the ring Amy Salinas. It's the only fight she had last year. But she has since put distance between herself and that loss to Sarah Borman in what was May of 2023. Since then, she's fought 3 times and won 3 times. She's on a 3-fight winning streak, what I think will be extended to a 4-fight winning streak. I have her winning a points decision against Tamara Demarco. Scheduled for 8 rounds in the women's minimum weight division. That is where Yokasta Valle currently reigns as that division's WBC champion. Sarah Borman, who I mentioned earlier, she's got the WBO. Where Japan's own Yuko Kuroki holds the WBA. The IBF title is currently vacant, but it won't be vacant for long. As Sol Baumstar and Sol Kudos are set to fight for the newly vacated title in Argentina. Also, this weekend, a new IBF champion will be crowned, and the landscape at minimum weight will have effectively changed as a result of Senicia Estrada's unexpected retirement. After Senicia beat Yokasta, wasn't expecting that. So how close is Yadira Bustillos to challenging for an alphabet title? Well, she's not ranked by the World Boxing Council, but she does come in at number 7 via the IBF, number 6 via the WBA, and number 1 via the WBO. She's closest to challenging for an alphabet title via the WBO, and it just so happens Sarah Borman is WBO champion. So if she wins this weekend, she comes 1 step closer to a Sarah Borman rematch and a chance to exact vengeance upon her. Though I think it would be wise to take in a few more fights after the Tamara Demarco fight this weekend if she can. If she wins, she should fight at least 1 to 2 more times before taking on Sarah for a second time. And so I do think Yadira is going to seal the deal this weekend. I think she's going to win a points decision, and we'll see if the prediction sticks. In men's light heavyweight news, I want to defend them. Artur Beterbiev looks forward to keeping his light heavyweight titles in Dmitry Bivol rematch. Artur Beterbiev spends some time talking about his upcoming rematch with Dmitry Bivol as they get set to headline this weekend as part of what some are calling the greatest fight card. Beterbiev, who won a decision over Bivol in their first meeting, says he's looking forward to defending his titles and improving his performance. On if beating Bivol a second time will feel as good as going undisputed the first time for fight? Yes, the same. That time I want to grab all the belts, now I want to defend them. On how his ailing knee felt during the first fight, from first fight is a little bit short time before fight. It's like 4 months, 3 months. It's not perfect that time, but now is better. Close to perfect. On whether Bivol was his toughest fight. That's an important detail. Remember that he was going into their initial meeting coming off of a knee injury and knee surgery, whereas now it's all better. Dmitry Bivol's movement and using the ring is a big part of what kept him in the fight. Though now that Artur Beterbiev's knee has had more time to heal, will he do an even better job of pinning down Dmitry and unloading? On whether or not that was his toughest fight, he said, if you compare, I went to a decision, yes, you can say it's toughest fight, but it's a little bit different. I think in my boxing career, I faced more strong guys, but it's different. But you can say it's the toughest fight. On why he refuses to shake hands with his opponents during a pre-fight build-ups, it's very simple, like, for example, we have fight tomorrow night. You want to beat me, you want to punch me as hard as you can. Why give a shake then? You get the gist of it. This fight is just as difficult to predict as it was the first time out, because rematches are often won by the fighter who can change, who can adapt, the fighter who can look at the fight before and learn something from it and bring that to the rematch. I feel like that's Dmitry more than Artur. Dmitry is widely perceived as the more cerebral boxer of the two, more the thinker than the bruiser. Though relegating Artur Beterbiev to just being a bruiser is a gross oversimplification of what is one of the better pressure fighters in this entire era of boxing. Yes, he's strong, he's powerful, but that's not all he has going for him. He's a pretty damn good boxer too. Still, I don't expect much to change about Artur Beterbiev going into this rematch because he's not the one who has to. In a very general sense, pressure fighters don't change much from one fight to the next. The assignment remains the same, irrespective of who's opposite the ring, and the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If the way you fought before won you the fight, I don't expect you to change. In the rematch, it's Dmitry that has to.
A lot of grace and I'm sure you were angry inside, but you didn't show it. How have you come to terms with that night last year, and what do you have to do different this time around?
When you have a plan for the future, the past will not bother you too much, and this is what I had. On the next day I had a rematch, and I was focusing on the rematch, and I was focusing about what I have to change. And most of the things I have to be just better than I was before. In all positions I have to be faster, stronger, I have to be more better with conditioning. Yeah.
What about the dynamics of a rematch? So you know him better now because you've fought 12 hard rounds against him, but he also knows you better as well. Does that help, or does that go against you? You know each other a lot better when you've shared 12 3-minute rounds.
I think it's better for boxing fans. Exactly, and at some point it's better. Yeah, you know what you have to. You know more exactly what you have to do, I think.
Now that he's had a look at him, shared the ring with him, he says he has to be faster, stronger, and have better conditioning. And even then, easier said than done. All things are. I don't really know what to expect from Dmitry Bivol, but I anticipate if anybody's going to change something about their approach on Saturday, it's going to be him. Is that change opening up more and trying for more punches, trying to finish the round stronger? Well, the more you open up, the more you're open. I'm of the opinion that what costed Dmitry Bivol this fight is the same thing that kept him in it. the same thing that allowed him to survive and endure Artur Beterbiev's power without getting stopped like everybody before him. It was the movement that kept him in the fight, but it's also what costed him, because too often he was the guy getting pushed around back on the ropes. So what's he gonna do now? Move less and punch more? Could be a bad idea. It's hard to know what's gonna happen this Saturday. Has Dmitry Bivol finally cracked the code to beat Artur Beterbiev, or is Artur going to beat him again? Beat him in better fashion. Artur Beterbiev, who was asked by Marcos Villegas about the potentiality of a Canelo Alvarez fight after this Saturday.
For you, does that fight make sense in your opinion to face a Canelo who would move up in weight to face you potentially in the future?
No. When he was champion in my weight category, that time I want to fight with him because I need the belt. But now, no.
Even if he says, "Hey, Artur, I want this fight with you." No, you're like, nah. Because he's smaller weight class, or?
I mean, if he come up my category is or mandatory or something like this, if like obligation, yeah, I do. But like no, like for choosing, no.
Okay.
Can't tell you how refreshing that was to see a boxer not obsessing about a Canelo Alvarez fight, landing it, even though there would be a precedent, as Artur would have beaten the man that beat Canelo. Would have beaten the man he already did. But for us to entertain a scenario where Artur meets Canelo Alvarez after this Saturday, Artur would have to hang on to his undisputed crown. He's not pressed about it. He's not stressed. He doesn't care. He said if Canelo becomes his mandatory, then sure, all right. If that's what happens, though currently, Canelo's not his mandatory. David Benavidez is. I'm a Canelo Alvarez fan. I have been for some time now, but I gotta tell you, Canelo would do wise to steer clear of Artur Beterbiev and the light heavyweight division. That is a mountain too high and a bridge too far. I don't have a doubt in my mind that Artur would stop Canelo Alvarez. He'd knock him out. He just doesn't have the size or the movement for that assignment. He might have the right base style, but at light heavyweight, he's just outgunned. If they were to fight. But they're not going to, and Artur's not stressed about it. Would seem the only way he was willing to entertain that possibility is if Canelo were installed as his mandatory challenger, but he's not. We all know who the mandatory challenger is. It's David Benavidez. David Benavidez, who's said to have accepted the invitation by Turki El Sheikh and will attend Saturday's Bivol versus Beterbiev rematch in Saudi, with the WBC maintaining that David Benavidez is next in line. I wondered about that. I wondered if David would accept Turkey's invitation to be ringside for the undisputed title fight. It would be very bad optics if he didn't. Got someplace else you'd rather be? You're supposed to be fighting the winner of this thing, aren't you? You just fought in an eliminator. Well, according to Lance Pugmire, he's going. He's going to be there Saturday night. For appearance's sake, I'd say, because I'm not convinced he's going to fight the winner of that fight. Just the act of being there, being able to be ringside for the fight, doesn't provide me assurances he'll follow up, he'll follow through. Least of all, if Artur stays undisputed champion. I don't think David wants no parts of that guy, and this doesn't convince me that he does. What's it gonna take? For both men to be in the ring and for the opening bell to sound. That's what? Team Benavidez themselves have spent more time hinting at the potentiality of a move to cruiserweight and a fight with Zurdo Ramirez than fighting the winner of this fight. The most that they've said is, should Dmitry Bivol win, why shouldn't those two guys run it back? Why shouldn't they have a trilogy? Doesn't sound like a guy who's chomping at the bit to get the winner in the ring to me. Sounds like an exit strategy. They're hoping Dmitry wins, and they're hoping there's a trilogy, because that will give them an excuse to leave the division, leave Undisputed behind, and focus on a more winnable fight. So he can go. He can be there on Saturday. He can be there ringside. It doesn't convince me of anything. Didn't change my mind. Finally, in men's heavyweight news, set to go down on that same show, Joseph Parker versus Daniel Dubois, predicted by the man who beat them both. The only man to have beaten both Joseph Parker and Daniel Dubois has given his prediction for their upcoming IBF heavyweight title fight on Saturday. Joseph Parker and Daniel Dubois are set to fight for Dubois' IBF title on Saturday. They fight on the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev 2. Parker is looking to become a two-time heavyweight world champion after first winning a title against Andy Ruiz in 2016. Dubois has been on a dominant run of form, stopping Jarrell Miller, Filip Hrgovic, and Anthony Joshua following his defeat to Alexander Usyk. Joe Joyce weighs in on the heavyweight clash, saying, "I'm excited to see that one. Obviously, may the best man win," Joyce told Sky Sports. "I've shared the ring with them both. I think I'm leaning for either Parker on points or Dubois by knockout." It's not much of a prediction. That's tantamount to saying that I've got Daniel Dubois winning by way of knockout unless Joseph beats him on points. You're not really picking anyone. However, while Parker and Dubois are battling for a world title, Joyce is looking to revive his own career after a difficult run. The 38-year-old has suffered back-to-back losses to Zhilei Chang and was recently beaten by Derek Chisora in a shock upset. For now, though, Joyce is focused on watching his former opponents clash for championship glory. Whether Parker's durability or Dubois' power proves decisive, Joyce's insight offers an intriguing perspective on a fight that could reshape the heavyweight division. The way I see it, I don't think Joseph Parker is going to be able to keep Daniel Dubois off. If he decides to box him from the outside, try to stay out of striking distance of Daniel, that's going to be difficult to do because Daniel is the taller, longer fighter, and he's going to be barreling forward, letting those straight punches go. That's if Joseph tries to stay on the outside. If he tries to match wits with Daniel on the inside, he's going to be outgunned. Daniel is the bigger puncher, the bigger, younger, and I think stronger fighter. So in that premise, I've got Daniel Dubois winning the fight by way of knockout. Alexander Usyk has promised to face the winner, whoever the winner is, in his very next fight. A Parker versus Usyk fight intrigues me more than a Daniel Dubois rematch, but ultimately, I think Daniel's going to win, so that's who I think Usyk is going to fight in his next fight. Daniel, for a second time, to finish their unfinished business. And become a two-time undisputed heavyweight champion. Potentially. As far as Joe Joyce, and his prediction, which is tantamount to riding the fence, he's got his own problems. He's got his own fight coming up with Dillian Whyte, which really is a question of who's got more left to give. A 38-year-old Joe Joyce or a 36-year-old Dillian Whyte. Both guys have been knocked out more than once, and I like that fight due to its aesthetic. Joe Joyce is an aggressive fighter, so is Dillian. They're both going to try to take each other's heads off. I'm leaning towards Joe Joyce. It's entirely possible that after those two knockout losses to Zhilei Zhang, Joe's punch resistance isn't what it used to be, but Dillian's was never that good to begin with. Every single loss he's ever had has been by way of knockout, whether it's Anthony Joshua, Alexander Povetkin, Tyson Fury. His punch resistance was never that good to begin with. Joe's penchant for applying pressure, he can't help it. That's who he is as a fighter. He's bigger than Dillian Whyte, more physically imposing, and he's gonna barrel forward doing what you expect him to do. I don't think that Dillian Whyte will be able to keep him off. Dillian is going to hang back, try to move, try to set up Joe Joyce for a counter, but he's going to get sucked into exchanges. He's going to get drawn into a war. That's why I like the fight. The word is out on Dillian Whyte's Achilles heel. The uppercut is the ticket. Every single time he's been downed, every single time he's been knocked out, it's been with an uppercut, and by now, I expect that Joe Joyce knows that, and they'll build a strategy around it. Leaning towards Joe Joyce to win and revive what remains of his career. I don't have any illusions about what happens after that. I don't see Joe Joyce becoming a world champion, but that doesn't mean he can't be part of some interesting fights. If he wins. And he has to. This is a make-or-break fight for the both of them. A crossroads fight. Whatever remains of Dillian Whyte's career and Joe Joyce's will be on the line.